In this video, we will deploy and configure the Azure Firewall for DNAT rule. Yeah, before doing anything, let's understand the intention and the architecture that we are going to use to test some of the things using Azure Firewall. So we have a hub and spoke architecture. Okay, we have a hub VNet and we got two spoke VNet. These two spoke VNet are paired with hub VNet. And first, what is that we're going to do? We will try to implement the DNAT rule for RDP, and the user should be in a position to do the RDP on these particular 3 VMs using the DNAT rule. Okay, that is the first thing that we will try in this particular demo. All right, so let's get on the portal. See, as usual, to save up the time to set up the networks, what I did, I created one resource group called RG Azure Firewall Test. Okay, and within this particular resource group, I already created one hub VNet and two spoke VNet. And what I did additionally, I have the peering done with both the spoke 1. You can see that hub to spoke 1 and hub to spoke 2. In addition to that, what I did, just vanilla VM, Windows VM deployed, as per the architecture that you can see that spoke VM1 is deployed in a subnet 1, spoke VM2 is deployed in a subnet 2 in a VNet spoke 1, and VM3 is deployed in the VNet spoke 2 subnet 3. All right, as per the architecture that we have seen. So these are the basic minimal thing I did. Okay, let's create the Azure Firewall. It takes a time bit here, I guess. Sometimes you have to hit once again just to make sure that it's picking up rightly. All right, so let's pick up the resource group. In this case, let's name this firewall my AZFW, something like that. Let's put that in the region Australia East. Availability zone, let's not bother about that at this stage. We're just testing. Firewall SKU. Firewall SKU is something that you need to understand. There are 3 SKUs: basic, standard, and premium. And what is essential for you to understand what each SKU provides. So my suggestion would be, come on the learn page and review this particular comparison. In the premium, you can see that there are 4 additional features: threat intelligence, TLS termination, IDPS, URL filtering. That is what you get additionally in the premium firewall SKU. If you're not utilizing these features, there is no point going for the premium, right? Most of the use cases fit for the firewall standard, but I personally saw utilizing standard and the premium in both the cases. Now, there is one feature called IDPS. Now, if you are a security guy, you can understand that rightly, which stands for Intrusion Detection and Prevention System. Now, when you deploy this on the firewall, what happens? Your throughput reduced to 1 Gbps, and that might impact your workload, which is not very clear out of this comparison chart, but that is one of the biggest issue that I notice. So when you enable the feature IDPS, you have to be very careful. If the firewall is too busy, then you know what, the IDPS feature with the Azure file is not right fit. You have to implement that somewhat differently. Maybe you go some kind of third-party solution to implement IDPS within your environment. Now again, there are different versions of IDPS, whether it is a host base or the network base. The one that we are talking about is a network base, but you can do it host base as well. So if you have a host base, there is no point having this. So some kind of consideration is needed. It's not something that you just go ahead and choose the feature and implement, right? And you may not want to double up as well. Some places I noticed that people use and deploy at the network level and the host level as well, which is double up. I think in some of the sensitive workload solution, it is a need also. I'm not saying that you should not implement. It is a need for the network-based IDPS and the host-based IDPS, but that is what you have to make a judgment. If you implement on the Azure Firewall, then you have a restriction of 1 Gbps throughput through the firewall, right? Sometimes is not a good thing in a busy environment, using a lot of data through the firewall in the busy environment, right? That is the most important thing to understand, right? So let's not get into too much detail of this, but what is that we're going to do? We are just going to put a focus on this one. All right. That is a bigger thing. I think, TLS termination and filtering, you may not need as such to some extent if you are using a application gateway TLS termination, again based on your use cases, but up to you how you solution and how you basically utilize those features. Let's go back to the portal once again. So that is the thing. And deploying the firewall, we choose the standard in this case, and firewall policy, use a firewall policy to manage this firewall, right? We name this one as fw-policy1, and let's name this like that. Choose a virtual network, we're saying use existing, and let's pick up this guy, and we don't want this, so that is there. And in this case as well, we going to say fw-pip1. Let's give the IP address. I think good now. All the details are there. We don't need to give any tag, review and create, and validation pass. And let's go ahead and create the firewall. All right. It might take some time to deploy the firewall. I'm just going to pause here and we'll resume the video once I see the firewall in place. All right, this is the private IP address that we got for the Azure Firewall. Now using this private IP address, which is going to be a next hub, right, for all our spoke workload, let's create a route table. You know what the route table is, but let's go ahead and create the route tables so that we can hop on, through the firewall, because we want to manage all the rules through the firewall. So we would like to, send all the traffic from the all three subnet to the firewall first, right? So let's go and do that. Is going to be the Australia is. Let's name this, because we just got one particular appliance. We just going to assign one, the route table to all the subnet that we have. That is fine, but not a good practice. Okay. Just to reduce the time on demos, we create the route table. All right, so let's go ahead and create the route table. We just need to add one route table. We don't need to add many routes. And deployment is successful. Maybe I think we go back to the route table rather than waiting. We click on the route table, and this is where we going to add one route, and that route name we can call it as UDR to EFW, something like that. IP address, we want to send all the traffic to the firewall, and it's just going to be virtual appliance and that firewall private IP address, right? So we added that UDR now, and we going to associate this particular route table with the spoke networks, the subnet one. All right, so let's add the subnet one. Let's associate with the subnet 2 as well. Not hub, spoke 1 and subnet 2, and same route table we can associate with subnet 3 also, which is in the spoke 2 subnet 3. So our firewall is basically, it means like now receiving the traffic from the all those three subnet that we have where virtual machines are placed. So let's close this. So we have the route now associated with all the three subnets. Now what is that we're going to do? We are going to create a firewall policy, right? Let's click on this one. Let's go to the DNAT rule, and we are going to add a DNAT rule. Let's call this one RDP DNAT. Let's put a priority as 100. Collection group name, we choose the first one. I think let's put the priority as 200 in this particular case. And what is that we're going to do? We call it as RDP1 source type. IP address, we say any IP address. I can restrict to my desktop as well. Let's put that one. And the destination port, we can say 3389 in this case. And we need a firewall IP. That's going to be the public IP. We pick up that public IP and we add as a destination one. And let's go to the other side. Translated type IP address. Translated address is going to be the virtual machine IP address, which is going to be this one in this particular case. So let's pick up this guy and put it there. And translated port is going to be 3389, right? That's one rule. We're going to create additional rules as well. RDP1, RDP2. Again, we're going to say star. In this case, TCP. We call this one 4489. And we are going to add the same IP address in this case and this case as well. Let's call it as 5589. This is TCP. This is star. RDP3. We're just going to add those details. And in this case, we have to pick up the VM addresses, right? So we go to the virtual machine. And in this case, we is this. So let's pick up the VM2, add to the collection group in this case. And we can pick up the VM3 as well. And let's pick up this address and add into the collection rule. And translated port is going to be 3389 in this case, and in this case as well 3389, right? Now what is the error that we're getting? Invalid IP address. Maybe that's a space I think is considering. Yeah, sometimes that is what happened. We just want to make sure that when we do the copy paste we're doing rightly. So I think that looks good to me. So 4489 and 5589, that is what the RDP port on 3 machines, you know. And let's say add. All right, so let this rule collection come in, and then we can quickly test the RDP access remotely. So you can see that rules are added now. What is that we're gonna do? We just going to do the RTP to all the machines. That's a firewall IP, and first port is 3389. Let's see whether we get any response from the firewall on 3389. All right, we got the response back, and let's make sure that we use the account. Call OS admin, and let's enter the password for this guy. All right, so let's make sure that we can get on the machine and validate it is the first one, which is a spoke 1 VM, right? We want to validate so that we know firewall is acting, you know, rightly. We can say yes. We can close this window. We can close this one as well. We don't need. We just need to get on the command prompt. The host name here, And there you go, we are on a spoke 1 VM. Let's add, and let's try the other one on 4489. What is that? We're gonna do similar thing in this case as well. Make sure that we got a new terminal, remote desktop connection. Let me pull that here. And what is the firewall IP? That's the firewall IP 4489. OS admin, that's what we want. And there you go, this guy is also landing there. And let's make sure that we can log into this machine as well through the firewall. Let's close this. Let's close this. And as usual, we just do the CMD here, get on the command prompt, and make sure that we see the host name. All right, in this case as well, we're just going to say host name. There you go, that's a spoke 2. Let's minimize this one as well. And we give a try on one more, which is going to be third VM, right? And we gave a port as 5589 for RDP, and then that port will get translated to 3389. And we try to log in through the firewall in this case as well. Let's make sure that we get on the VM and check the host name. Let's say yes. Let's close this one. Let's close this guy. Let's get on the command prompt, type CMD, and check the host name so that we know we're getting on the VM3. Let's check the host name. All right, looking good. So with this, we can conclude this demo, and the rest of the things we'll do in the next demo.